Hi, Kat. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
I saw on your website, the Cat Muse, that you're a reader and writer. Would you please share a bit about yourself as a writer?
I do consider myself a writer, or I got started in this industry. The whole end goal had always been to write. Um, and when I started my first novel quite a few years back, I realized that I had no idea how to get published or how the publishing process had worked. My entire academic career had focused on craft and honing that craft and writing technique, and it didn't really give me a lot of information about the industry. So as I started researching the industry and realizing what a literary agent is and does, I started falling in love with a new career path, and so that's how I came to agenting. That doesn't mean that I have completely forgotten about my writing. I would say that if I had to, brand myself as a writer, I write multicultural women's fiction, usually with aspects of magical realism. I just had to put that first novel away in a corner because I realized it was in no way, shape, or form ready for publishing. I think I made every single like rookie mistake that you could make: red flags, cliched openings, hackneyed language, and so it's got to kind of put itself in a timeout and think about what it's done, and I will come back to it at another date. And hopefully one day I get back to the point where I can balance agenting and writing a bit better. But right now, agenting is my first priority. So.
Oh, all right. And your website also shows your clients. Would you please share a story of how you decided to represent one of them, like your process in discovering and offering to be their agent?
That's so hard because I have to pick just one. They're all so special to me. They all started out with a really strong concept, and if you know, I keep telling writers who ask me about why they need to write a query and what's the importance of a query, and it's really learning how to pitch your own words, sell that idea. Because if I can hook into an idea and I really understand what the heart of the story is and what your intention for where you want the story to go, it's a lot easier for me as an agent that once I start reading through that manuscript, even if I see things that may need a little bit more work, to be like, I get your vision and I think I'm the right agent for this job. Um, so that being said, three out of my currently five clients are actually, I got them through, I had sent them revise and resubmits, and it was just to test their edit skills. I gave them some notes regarding broad strokes that needed to be addressed in their manuscript, and then they came back to me, and when I saw that they were able to apply those notes and really elevate the story, I was like, I know that we're going to do a great job working together. And so, I love the story. The chemistry was perfect between me and that manuscript. I loved their other story ideas that they had, that they would bring to the table later. And yeah, I offered representation that way. So it really comes from a love of their work.
I really like that you discovered them that way with the revise and resubmit and realized that you could work together. And I like that. All right. Again, I know I'm mentioning this a lot, but your website also has fantastic information about your submission interests. Beyond what we can find there, what is something you wish writers knew before sending in a manuscript to you?
Well, so I guess I have to ask a follow up. Is this about me personally or about my submission interests
You personally, or both.
specifically? Because I like that. I am adorable and socially awkward. I I like to think of myself as a very nice person, and I'm a very forgiving person. So I know this, that a lot of times in my query, looking at my query box, I'll see people who are pulling their queries to resubmit because they had a typo, or they had accidentally addressed it to the wrong agent and they had left the last agent's name in their template. And believe it or not, I don't mind those typos. I know that it's an incredibly nerve-wracking experience to send something that you've worked on so hard out into the world to essentially be judged. And so I try to be very compassionate. Typos, small mistakes, if I can see that you're still trying to, put forth your best work and to really present your work in a professional manner, I'm incredibly forgiving of that. It's the ones where you can tell that there was not much effort made. There's no query. It's basically like, hey, this is the next big thing, come and get it. That can turn me off as an agent, where I'm just like, we're not going to work well together. I can tell that right now. We're not going to work well. So to not beat yourself up about small things and to just put forth your best foot that you can when you're querying. I think that that's the best advice I can give anyone who's looking to work with me.
Like, what if somebody knows like you are their dream agent? You're like, I'm nice, I'm forgiving. Can they keep querying you and try to build up that rapport?
Yes, believe it or not, just because one work doesn't, I don't connect with it, doesn't mean that the next one won't. Sometimes it is just about getting that connection established between me and the writing. And so if one thing doesn't work, I'm not afraid to see that query again from you. Especially if there are times when I can tell that there's a lot of potential in something, but it's not the right fit. I'll even put in my rejection, like, please feel free to query me again. I would love to see more from you.
Oh, that's nice. All right. And so would you please describe your dream client?
All of my current clients are my dream clients. For in a client really comes down to like, what other story ideas do they have? Other than, it's really important for me to find a client that can come up with new story ideas. The market's always changing. Some things sell, some things don't sell. Some things we may have to, we just find isn't working when we're going through the edit process, or just the market's not right for it. So constantly having a stream of ideas that you have, filed away on your desktop or in an actual notebook is great. And if I can connect with that and it's something that is on brand, even better. Not to say that authors can't go and kind of go into other genres and go into other markets and want to be a little bit more spread out. So having a cache of ideas that and quite a few of them being on brand for you as an author is pretty important, because once you do sell a book and an editor wants to be like, hey, so just out of curiosity, what other stuff do they have, that would work for, what we want to put out. It's good to have those background ideas on hand to be able to say, well, here's another story idea, here's another story idea. It makes it easier to work with your career long term if you are constantly. That would be all my advice there.
Do you have a favorite quote? And if so, what is it?
I do, and it's kind of become my life mantra. Hang on, I'm gonna find it. I actually wrote it down and printed it out. It's by Desmond Tutu, former Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and it says, do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelms the world. And I've kind of turned it into a life motto to sometimes just live life and see the amount of injustices in this world, racism, xenophobia, things that can not only trigger you, but just kind of make you cynical of the world that you live in. And so even though I'm one person and maybe I can't create like a huge change, I can always do good in whatever I'm doing. And so that's something that I keep to my heart very closely, and hope that with enough, maybe my little ripple can join other ripples, and a wave can happen, and maybe real change will happen in this world. But it's just something that I keep to myself to keep me going every day.
I love that. All right. Any hobbies to give viewers a chance to feel like they know something personal about you?
I love food. I am actually quite an accomplished cook. Probably if publishing was never an option for me, I would have opened up a restaurant by now. I love feeding people. I just love creating things, and a lot of it comes from when I had moved away to college and take food, and it was a long journey, a lot of failed plates, but it got to a point where I just really fell in love with cooking, and so it's something that I do to kind of decompress during my day. So I try not to spam people on Twitter too much with my food photos, but it's delicious.
Oh, so and we need to have like a writing retreat where you offer to cook.
My friends who live in the area who are also writers, I take them my food all the time.
Oh,
so yeah.
I need to move.
Yes, I agree. You should live closer to me, Marissa.
Okay. All right. I want to thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be on the advisory board for your Writing Cheerleader, a space designed for emerging writers to find helpful information on their journey to publication. So to the stranger who says, I want to be a published author, what is your first piece of advice?
My first piece of advice is usually a question. What kind of research have you done already into the publishing industry? This is a question that I get asked quite a lot when I'm encountering new people who find out that I work in publishing and that I work as a literary agent. Having a novel and completing that manuscript is wonderful. You've taken the biggest step in the first direction. But it is also trying to figure out where it falls in the market. Does it meet industry standards? What are the word counts? Where would you place your book on a shelf? And the other books on that shelf need to have been published within like the last 5 years. And so, are you current and you know what's out there, so that way you know what's already been tired and overdone. It's a lot more, and those words mean that you're going from a writer and writing for your own enjoyment and writing for your own production to going into saying, I kind of want to make a career out of this. I want to try that route. I want to see what happens. And to do that, regardless of whether you're doing self-published or traditionally published, you want your book to be able to compete out there. And so doing that research and making sure that you've had the manuscript critiqued and edited. If you're going self-published, that you have graphic designers who will work on that book cover for you and the internal layout. And if you're not going self-published, that you've researched literary agents that are going to work in that genre is really important. So as soon as you finish that manuscript, if you want to become a published writer, please do your due diligence and do your research.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and knowledge. Is there anything I didn't ask that you think emerging writers should know?
Be kind to yourself. And it's okay to need to step away sometimes to come back and to, do what you need to do to bring that creative flow back and to get yourself in a place for writing. And I think that with all the burnouts that happens, being kind to yourself is something that you should definitely take to heart.
I love that.
So.
Now, where can people connect with you?
They can connect with me on Twitter. My handle is the same as my website, at the Cat's Muse, MEWS, because I love a good play on words. I completely adorable and a complete dork as well for puns.
I love it.
And they can also see my stuff at my website if they want to, thecatsmuse.com. And they can also find me at the Donald Moss Literary Agency website. So.
Okay, and I don't know how to link things yet, but I will put it in the description.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for having me.